Hey guys. Okay, so I really hope this is quick, but I guess if a million people pop on, it could end up being long, and you know, I'm here to serve. First off, disclaimer number one, I know not that much. Okay, I really don't. I really don't know much. Hey Martha, hey Jess, hey Rosie. I really don't know that much. I know what the new pipelines look like, and I can post that photo in the comments when I'm done. Actually, I probably could do it right now, but that sounds complicated, so I'm not going to. I know what the new pipelines look like. I know who all the new principals are. And that's the main thing I know. I did not get on here to talk about the details of Pathway to Greatness. I didn't get on here to talk about the Northeast Classen merger. I didn't get on here to talk about any of those things. What I got on here to talk about is a broader, hey Juice, is a broader and more wide-reaching discussion. Okay, so those of you who have been following me for a year, those of you who know me personally, those of you who have had conversations with me about the teacher walkout and all of that jazz. I knew then that the walkout wasn't going to work because history and the civil rights movement taught me that if you really want to try and force legislators to do something, like, people are going to have to go to jail and maybe even die, or at least get beaten, in order for the impact to be big enough, right? Essentially last year, teachers took a 2-week vacation and accomplished next to nothing. Remember in November, yeah, you guys didn't remember crap. And, whoever wants to be mad about that, we can talk later. I don't know anything officially about this either, but somebody said that they heard rumors of another walkout, another strike. That sounds stupid. We didn't accomplish anything last year. We wouldn't accomplish anything this year either. What do we actually need to do? What we actually need to do is a few things. Number one, we need to work together to make things easier for teachers. And I'm not saying that because I am a teacher. I'm saying that because I have a kid. And we need to extend our support beyond the elementary school. And if you are not a person of color, if you are a person whose kids go to one of the good schools, if you're a person who has a really full and flourishing PTA, then you need to spread the love around. Okay, if you have enough parents on your roster for there to be 20 different items at the bake sale, then you guys need to send 10 of your people over to a school that I guarantee you has 2 parents who are able to help and do things instead of all 20 of you. Make things easier for teachers, and by making things easier for teachers, making things easier for schools. You need to show up. You need to volunteer. If you work in the afternoon or at night, get up 1 hour earlier and go to your school and make some copies for somebody, or run an errand for somebody. I guarantee you, if you just show up, you have to get a background check first and be an approved visitor. But once you do that, and we could start a drive for that too, right? That's not an impossible thing to do. I think that there are things that seem harder than they are. It costs, I think the last time I checked, it was $67 to have the background check. And yes, it's stupid, and yes, we don't want to pay it, and yes, it's unnecessary, but better than complaining about it being stupid and unnecessary. Hey, Amanda, let's just fix that problem. Somebody somewhere has $67. So maybe we start a drive for how to pay for background checks for people who have the time to come volunteer but don't have the money for the background check. Cool. There's somebody else out there who has the money for the background check but who doesn't have the time to volunteer. Hey, Whit. So let's start that drive. That's a thing we can do. Let's start a volunteer drive. That's a thing we can do. Let's start a sub drive. That's a thing we can do. And like I said, your PTAs, if your PTA is full, you need to outsource to another school. Like, I don't care that that's not the school your kid goes to. Rotate out to another school, because there are schools that don't have thriving PTAs. Also, elementary school is not the last time to care about kids. Like, I have all these friends who are elementary school teachers, and I guess I shouldn't even be talking about, sorry, Amanda, I'm reading your comment. I just want to have a job next year. I'd love to have the same job, same school. I love my kids. It's scary not knowing. So I'll talk about that in a second. And yeah, exactly. PTAs often don't happen from lack of involvement. In lots of places, probably not that many OKCPS places, you have these huge PTAs where, I say huge, maybe they're not huge, but they are fully functioning. Hey, Cassie. And they, they bring food for drives, and they do fundraisers, and they help their teachers, and they do, can you outsource a PTA? If you're, here's what I'll say. I cannot imagine how they would stop. For example, if you have, you have two elementary schools right down the road from each other. Hey, Michelle Tilley. Long time no talk. I can't imagine how a person who is authorized to be on campus at Willowbrook would be barred from being on campus at Spencer Elementary. Maybe that's another background check issue, but like I said, let's start a background check drive. If you need a drive, thanks, ma'am. If you need a background check, and you can't afford it, let's get some people together to pay for your background check so that you can go be on the PTA at another school, because your school's PTA is doing great and the school down the road's PTA is not doing great. Instead of assuming that we can't, let's just find a way to do it. Okay, so that's what I was saying, elementaries versus up higher. So, people love their little kids and they love their older kids, but they tend to think that their older kids can fend for themselves. And they also tend to think that their older kids as teachers don't need stuff, but that doesn't make any sense, because your elementary school kids have one teacher all day, and your older school kids as teachers have 100 to 200 kids. Doesn't really make sense. So, thought background checks were free when signing up through OKCPS. If they're free, juice, then that's new recently, because when I moved from Millwood back to OKCPS, I had to pay $67 for a new one. And I was going from one district to the next. So, it would be awesome if they are. Let's fact check that and find out. And if they're free, then, oh my gosh, go get in the freaking schools. And that's not to you, that's to everybody. If background checks are free through OKCPS, go get in the schools. And if they're not, let's start a drive and then still go get in the schools. Middle school teachers need stuff too. Pencils, paper. Amanda said she had to pay for hers too. So this year, Amanda, pencils, paper, binders, highlighters, Kleenex, hand sanitizer. Every time you go to the store, pick up 1 or 5 of those things and just drop it off at the school. If they're not going to say no, nobody's going to say no. I swear to you, nobody's going to say no. Just do it every time. What route are they going for background checks? I'd love to have a side conversation about background check requirements. Cool. That's awesome, Cassie. Thank you. Juice, as a volunteer, you didn't have to pay for yours as of a couple of years ago. Yeah, so maybe that's the difference. so Amanda said she did have to pay through hers. So she had the same situation I had, where she was coming from another district and had to pay for it. So, Juice, maybe that's the difference between like a parent volunteer and a staff teacher. I'm not sure. So middle and high school drop off school supplies, all the school supplies, all the paper, all the pens, all the pencils, all the whiteout, all the staples, not staplers, staples, all the tape, all the Kleenex. Did I miss anything? All the copy paper. Do you know how many people get told every week, how many teachers get told every week, sorry, we're out of copies? I'm sorry, what? What? Go to Target? Go to Walmart? Go to Dollar General? What? We're out of copies? Houseway. All the Lysol and Clorox wipes. Yes, those two. Those are things that you can do every week to help out middle and high schools. I'm really not exaggerating or kidding. I kid not. Every week. Paper, pencils, hand sanitizer, Kleenex. Make them overflow. We'll spread them around for you. If one school gets full, we'll send them somewhere else. Okay. So let's talk about subs. Let's talk about how apparently it is faster to start the process, complete the process, and get placed at schools to substitute teach in Putnam City, Medill, whatever, before you can move from like step 2 to step final of the process in OKCPS. I don't know. That's a thing that people were talking about. Xanity. Hey, that's a thing that people were talking about in a group that I probably wasn't supposed to share, but don't care that much. That's ridiculous. So can we start our sub and background check drive now instead of in August? Can we get ahead of the game? Because at Rogers, when I was there, it was pretty much a guarantee. If you were going to be sick tomorrow, you were not going to have a sub. Like that, you just weren't. At John Marshall, you might, maybe. And yet I know there are people who can sub. So what's the problem? We need to figure that out too. Hey, Jamie. Okay, so subs, so supplies, so PTAs. So, okay. Let's get big, right? Let's get big, let's get general. Okay? Support your teachers, because we're broke out here. We're broke, and we're frustrated, and we're tired. How do I say this? Let's have some conversations about student behavior, because you've got people who own private prisons literally planning for your kid to go to prison. Full stop. Like, I'm not exaggerating. I'm not lying. I'm not kidding. Research the school to prison pipeline. It's a thing. And if your third grader didn't pass that test, they are literally banking that your kid is going to be one of the kids in their prison. So does it matter more? How do I say this? Does it matter more if your kid gets to read the book in class that they want to read, or gets to take the elective that they want to take, or that they don't end up in prison? And I'm not saying it doesn't have anything to do with like your kid. It has to do with the system that's against your kid, right? You can do everything right. You can do everything that you want to do. And if the system is bound and determined to hold your kid down, they're not likely to fail, because it's a lot of them. And I know that we can't all go to Medill. We can't all go to Putnam City. We can't. And word on the street is that those districts are not Awesome. Word on the street is that like Edmond, Moore, and Norman are the only, and Deer Creek are the only, good quote unquote school districts in the metro. I don't know because I have not worked in any of those districts. Never mind. So everybody can't move, and I get it. So what can you do? If you are there, you've got to be invested in teaching your kid how to care more about their schoolwork than they do about Fortnite. You've got to be invested in getting your kid to take responsibility for him or herself. I passed out missing work reports today, and some of them were in the trash before the kids left my room. You have to get your kid to try and do some stuff on their own. It's not that I won't help. It's not that your teachers don't want to help, but we have our own stuff and our own struggles, and we can't pay for after school care for our kid because we don't make enough money. We barely make enough money for our kid to go to daycare, much less for them to go to aftercare daycare, so that we can stay all night doing things that your kid could help themselves do. And I'm not talking about like do our job for us. That's not what I mean. I mean, your kid could do some homework, and then we could cover more standards in an amount of time because your kids are working. And I'm not talking about like, teeny tiny babies having to do extra stuff. I'm talking about your middle schoolers and your high schoolers. They could do some homework. Let's talk about how, I don't know, do we want to talk about how to start a revolution? Because the walkout's not it. Voting's not it. Not in Oklahoma, it's not. The candidate pool's not big enough. Not in Oklahoma, it's not, because we got private prisons right up the road. Not in Oklahoma, it's not, because we've only had 2 blue counties in God knows how long. And sorry, Republicans, as much as I love you on an interpersonal level, you guys are not pro public ed. So if we want them to actually change something, we've got to hit them where it hurts. And a teacher walkout isn't what's going to hurt them. I can't say that I know what will. I mean, I had some rogue ideas last year. Me and some of my teacher friends had some rogue ideas last year. But I mean, unless y'all are really trying to start a new revolution that includes some people going to jail, there's no reason for me to even take that route. If you can't move your kid out of OKCPS, which I don't think that's the solution. That's not a long-term solution. That's a short-term solution. That's a right here, right this second solution. A long-term solution is let's create inroads so that the kids who can't leave don't still have to deal with this crap. Okay? PTAs, supplies, support your teachers. God, if you have a business or money, like, I'm really not kidding, just give teachers money. Like, just give them free food. Just give them whatever you can give them, just give them. If you own rent houses, knock off a couple of $100s for teachers. Like, whatever you can do, just do it. Especially teachers in this district, because the district picks the principals. The district picks, they're the ones who decided that we're going to close 14 buildings, which, by the way, I will go on record as saying, in general, and I don't know all the nuances, but in general, I do not disagree with building closures and consolidation and etc. I do think it's strange and probably indicative of some kind of misconduct that Spencer went from having a middle school and a high school to having a mid-high when they dissolved all the other mid-highs. One of these things is not like the others. But again, the district makes those decisions. The district decides who the principals are. Some of those principal choices, questionable. Juice, I'll come back to you in a second. I really am glad you said that. Thank you for your comment. I'll come back to it in just a second. What you can do that the district can't keep you from doing is supporting your teachers and pushing your kids and thinking about the group and not just the individual. So that circles me right back to what Juice is about to say. When dealing with your own kids, you don't think long term. You have to do what's best for your kid. I'm not sacrificing my kids, simple as that. Absolutely. I don't think I meant sacrifice them. Especially coming from a person who is intelligent like you and hardworking like you and involved like you. I don't know that your kids would be sacrificed no matter where they were, because you're an active parent and you're going to continue to be an active parent, like no matter where your kid goes to school. And yes, you could have your kids at a school that is, better on money, better on teachers, better on programming, etc. But I would argue that because you're a good parent, there's no way for your kid to be sacrificed. And that's kind of my point, is that parents have way more control than they think they do. Now, that's why I talked about PTAs, though, because what about parents who don't have a lot of control? What about parents who are barely keeping it together with their 2 jobs and their stress level? That's where, and I mean, maybe it's not a branch of the PTA, maybe it's something else, but to me, that's where the PTA should step in, is hey, I notice, and I'm not talking about in a public, annoying and terrible way. I'm talking about in a private, we got kind of way. Hey, I notice Joe is always late to school. We live right down the street. Do you need help dropping him off? And that's something that parents can do for each other. And that's something that the district can't take away from you. Am I addressing your point? If you have a counter argument, I absolutely want to hear it. I just think that good parenting takes out the factor of sacrificing anything. I went into preschool knowing how to read and write because my grandma taught me at home, not because I went to any certain type of school or preschool. That was all before I got there. Parenting. And like I said, you're a good parent, so I wouldn't be worried about your kids no matter what. I don't know, guys. I have a lot of ideas, but nothing can be done by oneself. I can't do, to be even more honest, I can't do a damn thing except for get on Facebook Live and go to my own school in the morning and grade papers and talk to the kids that are around me. I can't do anything else. I have a kid and she's prone to ear infections and I, had my own bouts with multiple strep. I don't have the time and energy for a drive. I can connect people to people. I can keep discussions open on social media. I can explain what I know. I can answer questions. I can point people to people who have better answers to questions. What can we do together? What can we help with? How can we, as a group, as a community, as a team, do things better? What can we do that the district and the state can't take away from us? That's the question that we need to answer. What can we do that the district and the state can't take away from us? And I laid out some ideas already. So I'm going to put those ideas in the comments. I'm going to put the new pipeline graphics in the comments. I'm not going to screenshot all of the principal names because that seems a little too direct. So I will be as passive aggressive as you'll ever find me, in that I just won't post about it and you guys can figure it out on your own. Okay, juice. As a society, we've gone away from that village mentality. I've been in some of the schools you described. My kids have been in those schools. I know that you ultimately shortchange your kid by not providing the best opportunity you can. That's really interesting. I would love to talk more to you about that. You can message me, or maybe we can like hang out sometime and talk about it. I would love to talk more about that because I really don't, my baby is little and, I know what my childhood was like, but I'm, old now, and that was 20 years ago. So I would love to hear more thoughts on that, on how you as a parent feel perhaps limited by what the school has to offer. I would love to hear more about it. Maybe you could come on the show. You could go live with me from your phone at your house and talk from the parent perspective. I'm super down. So yeah, I'll retype some of my ideas. I'll put the graphic in the comments. Feel free to share this. I will make it public. I'll change it to public here in a second. And, let's talk about it, because the difference between 60 years ago, this is 2000, almost 20, so 60 years ago was the 60s, yeah. 60 years ago, the difference between them and us is that they got together and said, hey, we don't care what they said or did or what the law is or whatever. This is what we're gonna demand. And they demanded it with their lives, with their bodies, with their dollars, with their jail records. And all we do is talk on our phones and play games. And I realize that that's what I'm doing, but I am trying my best to bring people together as a community, because I know that I'm limited in what I could offer, but maybe somebody else would feel inspired or feel able to join a team if we talk about it in the right spaces and places. So that's all I got. Leave all the comments, share, like, etc. Hey Ryan, glad you're tuning in. I'm about to log off, but as soon as I do, just go back to the beginning and watch. Thanks.